Howdy ho, neighborino. There we go. Drop my chair down so I'm not blinded by the sun. Welcome to the Wild Wild West podcast. My name is Richie Richey of the MHRT Network. Over that way, representing your LA Chargers, is DZ. Thank you, DZ, for joining us today again. We got a lot to talk about. This is one of the times of the season where everything is so fluid. Every single show has something new that has come out for each of our teams, just because you have UDFAs getting cut and then some new guys coming in being re-signed. You got news from the various camps, rookie mini camp, and things like roster installs and all that kind of stuff. So you just have some really, really interesting things that are kind of going on really throughout the NFL. And today is no different, and frankly, the rest of probably the next 3 weeks or so is going to be no different there as well. And down directly below, Mr. Jack Kenna, representing your Las Vegas Raiders. Thank you very much, Jack.
Thank you. Salute, Nathan.
And we are working on, we are in discussions with a few folks to rep the Chiefs, and hopefully in the next week or two, we will have a new representative to come in, and we will go from there. So that'd be kind of neat to have that fourth perspective on the show again. So I do expect to see that coming in soon. Judson, Victory Lap, good to see both of you guys join in the show. We will get into a little bit of the schedule leak and release, because it looks like all four of our teams have had their schedules leak now. So that's good. So we have something to talk about in that regards. But we're going to kick off the show with rookie minicamp. This is kind of one of the coolest things I really like, although teams are getting more and more tight-lipped about it. It used to be one of those things that was kind of like, doors blown wide open. People were just able to go and kind of see the new rookies, and everything was like fine and good and all that kind of stuff. And now it's really become a very limited media access affair for most teams. I know my Denver Broncos only had a single day of media access. And then there were certain beat reporters that were allowed to report, but they weren't allowed to, have any footage or anything like that from the rookie camp. So clearly being taken as a time to really accelerate these young rookies in today's NFL, to allow them to come on the field and play, just like my Denver Broncos had with a bunch of UDFAs as well as rookies like, Vele, for example, who came in as a 7th round pick. And, he was incredibly productive in his first year for my Denver Broncos. And I hope to see continued progression on that front as well. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. I think my Broncos probably have the most news that kind of was able to kind of come out with regards to the mini camp. I know I got a lot of insider information from a bunch of different folks. But I'm going to throw over to you, DZ, first to give your kind of take on the Chargers for the rest of the folks that are here. And then I'll kind of jump in with my Denver Broncos right after we talk about your Chargers.
Well, not much has happened. I mean, there has been some moves in LA. They did bring in another wide receiver. Thought they had enough, but I guess not. Competitors welcome in LA, but they did waive Bucky Williams, who was a projected center guard. I think he was a UDFA last season. This big old man he has this giant ginger dude that everybody was kind of rooting for. So they waived him, which sucks. Oh well. And then they did waive another guy, John Baptiste, who was another linebacker. They waived him for a guy Jack might be familiar with, but I don't know. He's from USC. I think he was on the Raiders practice squad. Linebacker Kanai Mwaga.
Mwaga, yeah.
Yeah, Samoan dude. Then there was another guy. I know that one of our edge guys, Chris Collins, was waived as well. And
Mwaga, yep.
And I'm trying to see if they replaced him with somebody. I only saw 2 guys come in. Other than that, it's just been interviews. Everybody's getting to know each other. The rookies free agents, the UDFA guys, they're all getting a chance to, figure out how things go. And kind of an interesting nugget is Tier Tart, who is, predicted to have a bigger role this season in LA, especially with the departure of Puna Ford. He came in, which I totally forgot about. He came in like 3 days before the first preseason game. So they re-signed him, brought him back. And so he was talking about how, this feels really good that, I get to start from scratch. I don't have to be rushed with the playbook. And he was talking about how he felt appreciated by the organization. Kind of like a knock on him is he was a Dolphin, he was a Titan. I think he was one other guy, but a lot of teams or a lot of people said he had a bad attitude and, this and that or another. So he had these knocks on him, and he felt like he was never given a fair shot. And I don't have the stats on top of me, but with his snap count, what he did play, because he didn't play like a crazy high snap count like compared to Puna, his numbers were awesome. He had great numbers. So with him, with an increased snap roll, should be really good. I'm excited for him, happy for him. And he has a connection with the two new D tackles that they brought in free agency as well. They all know each other from previous stops. Hand and it's Naquan Hand and I think it's Campbell. No, not Campbell. Delshawn. No, that's a linebacker. Anyways, I feel bad for not knowing the guy's name off the top of my head. It's so new. But I thought that was cool that they know each other. So there'll be some chemistry on that D line, and that should help. They could feed off of each other, and especially with the new rookie Caldwell coming in. And then, other than that, with what's going on since last week, just guys talking about, their path to the NFL. Nothing big. There's been some really nice, juicy, running against air for Trey Harris, which everybody, oohs and ahs about. But other than that, it's same old, same old. I think I'm kind of excited about since we have the Hall of Fame game, I get to see a lot of these guys that we've been talking about these past couple of weeks, really get to see these UDFAs and these back, later round draft picks and stuff like that. So that's what I'm excited about. And then the obvious, the schedule coming out, which, like you alluded to, a lot of it has been leaked. And what can you say? The NFL, I feel like, hates my Los Angeles
travel
Chargers.
a lot. Yeah, you travel a lot this year.
It's an understatement, man. I think it's 37,000 miles comparative. Damn. And look, I know geography. I get it. I know where they're located. But, like, compared to the Cincinnati Bengals, who only travel 12,000 miles, compared to 37,000, it's insane, man. And, I feel like that man that's like yells like get off my lawn, like an old man, get the hell off my lawn, because I just see what the way the NFL is going, and I don't like it at all. I'm not a fan, but we could talk about that later, I guess.
I don't know. I like that you guys are traveling a lot.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. Another thing I did see with the schedule leak was the last 2 seasons, the Chargers have had really early buys, which have saved their butts because they dealt with some really early, critical injuries. And, all I was hoping for, I was like, just give us a mid-season buy, please, please, please. Well, what I've seen with the schedule leak is they're like, NFL's like, hold my beer. Let's go from one end of the spectrum and we'll give you a week 12 buy. And I'm like, oh God, here we go. So should be interesting, man. But look, that's why these teams build depth, right? That's what we hope.
Well, there's 2 benefits to that. One, if your team's in a rhythm, then your rhythm isn't broken by a bye week. Now, on the flip side of that, if your team is really hurt, like badly hurt, and sorry to say, your team has got a bit of we'll call it a history,
Right.
Yeah.
Just a wee bit.
a reputation, if you will. Frankly, a deserved one at this stage, if I'm going to be honest, just based on kind of what's happened over the decade, basically.
I mean, all those
injured.
people are gone though, but so like anything that happens with this new regime, it's just pure cursed. It's just the organization's cursed at that point.
Yeah, well, yes and no. It also depends on nutritionists that are brought in, how strict they are about doing things, the quality of that stuff in general.
Hey, look, these guys at the facility eat Wolfgang Puck. So, look, I can't say that for other teams what they eat during the day. No,
Wouldn't mind having him as my personal chef, that's for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think it's kind of good that you have a later bye week though, because you got to figure that's when people are all banged up, towards the end of the season.
Well, and there's a plus side to that because I think about now I'm hoping this isn't going to be a really heavily rookie contributed season, right? Like I'd like them to be sprinkled in and have their parts, but I don't want to rely on rookies. So I think, that bye week being at that time could be a really good break for some of these rookies who are not used to playing this level of ball for this long. You know what I mean? College season's pretty short, especially for a lot of these guys that didn't play at some of these big time schools that went on to bowl games or went in the playoffs or whatnot. You know what I mean? So I wish my ideals would be week 8 or 9. That's what I was hoping for, and it didn't happen. But look, we don't know yet. This is all up in the air. This is all leaked. Who knows? They might throw us a curveball at, I believe, 8:30 Eastern time.
Yeah,
that's when it comes out.
So it looks like, based on what's leaked now, Broncos and Chargers both have the same bye week.
Yeah,
and then the Raiders is week 8.
That's perfect.
Beautiful.
And then the Chiefs is week 10.
It's a great one too.
Yeah.
So we're going to be hanging on by a thread. Hopefully not. I do think that some teams, I think the latest is week 14 I saw a bye week for a team.
That's a long ways to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
to step up at their home games, always more opposing fans in the stadium. Victory lap, you need to check last year's stats because I think you would be wrong about that. Maybe 1 or 2 teams came in with a really heavily presence last season, but overall for the last season, it was a really good charter coming out. But look, new kids on the block in LA, not established fan base. It's going to take some time. And I said this when they moved to LA. The only thing a city like LA respects is winning.
Winning, yeah.
It's the only thing they respect. This isn't San Diego where you and the Padres are the only game in town. LA has the Dodgers, the Lakers, the Rams, who I can't stand, but
LA Kings, Ducks.
Yeah. And then you look at Denver,
Angels.
right? Denver has won, right? They have won. They've got a storied history about winning, but they draw from a region, a massive region. They have states. I know fans that live in New Mexico, West Texas, Alaska, Montana, the Dakotas. So, yeah. Victory lap, then man. LA's massive, but they're not established. I mean, a lot of the LA people didn't want them in LA to begin with also. They wanted them in Vegas or stay in San Diego, which, look, I was hoping for Vegas. I think I love San Diego, and I could see them maybe getting a team down the road, but I just think look, I'm a diehard from San Diego, but oh man, I'm going to get so much flack if I say this. For the Chargers, San Diego fans were fair weather fans. They were fair weather, man. And, and look, people are like, there's a lot of things to do in San Diego. The weather's beautiful. You got this, that, and this and the other to do. But, when some of those seasons were pretty bad, like they couldn't give tickets away. That's how, so, but I think that would be for the most part, the majority of teams in California, maybe not San Fran. San Fran seems to do pretty well with their fan base, but I'm not too familiar with them. Raiders, they always draw a huge crowd.
Raiders are gonna, probably have more fans. They had more fans in San Diego because they have a history in Los Angeles. They're going to draw more fans than again, more than the Chargers are going to draw fans.
Well, the Raiders
California fans, to go to Las Vegas, buy those tickets there, the flight, the Ubers, the food, everything that costs so much money. It is just so much cheaper.
Vegas man needs to get
to drive down and go to LA and watch a game there. So until generations like me, some of us older guys, we start going away and the kids grow up watching different teams because, we used to be on TV. Didn't matter where you were in California. We'd be pretty much on TV. So you got that outlet. Now that, it's in Vegas, at least in Northern California, since they played in Oakland, they don't show the games like they did.
So
because now the Niners, have the control of the territory. So those games don't get shown. So once the older fans, once they start going away, then that might change. But until that time, it's a cheaper ticket. There's still a lot of fans, that watch it from California, being a part of the North and the South. So then that's when I think you'll restart taking over your own stadium for that piece. And I feel it in Las Vegas because it's a destination city. So I don't think there's been a game since they started in Las Vegas where there's almost more Raider fans than there is the other team's fans. So I feel it too.
It's a destination city, I think I've talked about this before. I think with you, maybe Jack, is when I grew up, going to games in San Diego at Qualcomm, Jack Murphy before Qualcomm, when Raider Week, because the Raider rivalry was a huge deal. Like it was F the Raiders, F the Chargers, always 365, 24/7. That was the thing because there was such a heavy Raider presence in San Diego. And there's this whole rivalry, San Diego, LA, San Diego, hate LA, whatever, right? They're big brother up to 5. But the San Diego fan base, for the most part, was a really family fan base. So when the Raiders were coming down, that was their opportunity to be like, I'm not dealing with that, and I'm selling the tickets. Because I've said this, I think to maybe Captain Jack or maybe you, to me, there's a big difference between NorCal Raider fans and SoCal Raider fans. And I think SoCal Raider fans are, or at this time, I'm talking about the late 90s, early 2000s, were too interested in gangbanging and acting tough towards people than supporting their team. Now, NorCal fans on the different spectrum. I think the Oakland Raider fans were more of the, we support our team kind of thing, that kind of stuff. And they weren't into that, you know what I mean? So I think back in those days, like you would see St. Charger fans are like, yep, selling my tickets. I'm not even going to go and deal with that. And I remember times like that where you're just like, man, do I really want to deal with this? Do I want to say something and, have like these dudes, these essays come after you? So it wasn't worth it.
Well, it's just a different generation for sure. I mean, I think it all stems from starting with the players. And, it's like, I know the 70 Raiders, it'd be like, I remember watching videos, like, hey, who are we going to fight today? And, if the players are talking like that, then your fan base is going to, be a little bit more like that too. So, and it's like, I think that's for all teams, if everyone's back in those days. Nowadays, players are shaking hands, helping each other up.
Here's my jersey.
Yeah. Exchange jerseys versus, in the old days, they would just be like, F you, man. You play for a different team, kiss my ass. Unless we were like,
the only way you were getting another dude's jersey was by ripping it off in the middle of the game.
Yeah, it's kind of sad. It's kind of sad how it's going. It's like the NFL's really, their whole image has changed, and we've watched it change. It's kind of interesting how it's gone. It's the money is definitely getting bigger than it ever has, man. I mean, I think someone brought up a stat of just last year, like how many billions of dollars was just put into betting alone in just American sports. Like billions.
Oh yeah, when
Like,
you think about it, with all the apps now, like these betting apps that are out there, you don't have to go to a casino that's got a sports book. You could just upload let it be a casino sport book or just any of these, free range sports books, and they're promoting it in a way of like, okay, you make your first bet, you get $200 for free.
Yep.
So it's just inciting, the betting.
Yeah. So, yeah. I feel like I'm getting to that stage where I'm like, I missed the glory days, I guess. And the glory days for me were the late 90s, early 2000s. Like, that's kind of that football my brain seems to always go back to. And I just see, what's up, Gord? Just see what the football is now. Look, I still enjoy it. These guys are incredible athletes. I think they're better athletes than they've ever been.
Oh, agreed.
I mean, some of these offensive tackles that are coming out are they're giants. Like, they're freaks, 6'6", like 340 pounds, running around faster than, most people I know can move. And so it's impressive.
Think about it. You get one of those guys chasing you, back in the day, you can outrun the person and get away from them. Now, you can't get away from them. They'll catch you.
No, a dude like Jordan Davis, who's like 6'7", 6'6", 340, and runs a 4.6 or a 4.5. Like, that is a monster of a human that is running at a stupid fast pace.
Yeah, man.
That's scary. Right? That's scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, I agree with Victory Lap. Like, look, yeah. The only way to cure some of this stuff is
Kev.
I don't know what Kev is talking about. He's talking about us. But with Victory Lap, like, yeah, man, like, you got to win to get asses in those seats. So, excuses are done. Like, start winning, man. Easier said than done, especially now. Look at this division is absolutely loaded.
I think Cool Kev was talking to you, DZ. He's all, San Diego's got nice blondes and gingers. LOL.
They do. Like, I was going to say, I think Cool Kev, he may have been intentionally not responding to that particular comment.
I made sure. Thank you, Kev, for reminding me to bring it up because I was going to.
Due to other company that may or may not be home and may or may not be listening. So there.
Hey, Cool Kev, put it down in chat. Are you going to Bakersfield?
Wait, Edwards predicting the Raiders sweep us? Wow, that's spicy, Ed.
Harbaugh is a major concern for the Raiders, but I think we sleep.
What's up, Gord?
Wow.
I already said OG.
Huh.
Edward, lay off the eggnog. Chronicles of the Black Hole, he's right. I was stationed there. Were you in the Navy, I assume, or the Marines? Camp Pendleton?
No. He was Navy, went out for Navy SEALs. And he got, I forgot what team. He got a tryout for NFL team.
So he's at NAB, NAB or North Island, or was it 22nd Street? Yeah, I've been on all those bases. The only base I haven't been on was Camp Pendleton. I've never been on Camp Pendleton. One. Even though I lived in North County, I never got on that base to do any work, but I used to work a lot on the naval bases. Oh, did my power just flash? That's crazy.
Yeah, I went on that base. My uncle was a lieutenant colonel in the Marine Corps, and we were at the officer beach. And my mom was walking, on the beach itself, and she cut her foot open, and it was like a piece of metal that was from one of the old AR M16s, and of course she pulled it up to see what it was. And she ended up having to get a tetanus shot. And then, we asked the MP, to go get my uncle. And we asked, hey, can we keep it? And they're like, no, you can't keep this. But what they would do is that the guys would, instead of like having to keep their guns so clean, they would get some new parts, put it on there, the part's new, throw the old one in the ocean for inspections.
So you were on like Coronado area?
No, that was Camp Pendleton.
Oh, you were okay, yeah, because you camp up there, yeah. So I've never been up there.
Mm-hmm.
So like the Coronado area, real quick, the Coronado area, the story is supposedly if you come in the harbor, because that's where they park all the aircraft carriers, if anything happened to that opening, supposedly that strand that's between, it's called the Silver Strand, so supposedly there's explosives there that they can blow that up to get their ships out if they needed to. I thought that was always kind of neat hearing that as a kid.
Yeah, I got a cool one we could talk behind the scenes. I got a really cool Camp Pendleton story from one of my coworkers who's ex-Secret Service.
Nice.
That's cool. So with regards to your mini camp and everything, any specific guys that have popped that have kind of come out that were surprising, or kind of what you expected?
You talking to both of us?
To you in particular?
To be honest with you, the clips I've just been seeing short clips. Like I said, I'm really excited about Trey Harris. I think that guy is a steal in this draft. He wasn't supposed to be a second rounder, in my opinion. I thought he was a first round wide receiver. But, there was a lot of knock on the wide receivers in this class, like there's only 3 guys or 4 guys, whatever. But one kind of interesting note is Rashawn Slater isn't there, I believe, at camp right now. And he's waiting, everybody's waiting to re-sign him. Well, thank God for psycho fans, right? Because I'm like, what's going on? We need to re-sign this guy. Like Rashawn Slater, I love this dude, as a left tackle. And, a lot of people are like, well, the Chargers usually will sign these guys late summer. And I'm like, okay, all right, that's cool. And then I looked into it. Yeah, some of these guys did get their contracts signed late summer. Then I did some digging from some stuff I saw. It looks like he's going through a divorce already. And you don't want to get your huge contract while you're still with that said person, I guess. So I think they're waiting for this divorce, I'm quoting this, to go through before he gets paid the big bucks. And it's crazy.
It's a 6-month process for getting divorced in California.
Well, this is in Texas. His main residence is in Texas. So I don't know Texas law, but it's just crazy because they just got married like a few seasons ago. And I remember on his honeymoon, there's like clips of him in like Tahiti or wherever doing like pass blocking drills and stuff, with her. And I checked up like a stupid fan I am on her Instagram and his, and both their pictures are wiped out from each other. So I'm like, oh, okay, this might be a real thing. So yeah. But other than that, man, I'm excited. Look, I don't ever get excited about seeing players, run against air or do drills because, I would take it for like the Raiders last year. Remember, you guys saw Zeus and Tyree Wilson standing together, and you guys are like, man, these guys are jacked. They're gonna kill it this year, and they didn't kill it, right? Is that safe to say? They didn't really have great years, right? Okay.
With
but
Tyree,
it was like, so yeah, we're talking about these pictures, right? So like I saw this clip. There's like all 4 or 5.
Oh, I saw the same one. It's like, and Tyree looked bigger than our nose tackle, and that nose tackle was 330 pounds. And, Tyree's like 285, but you looked at the guy's shoulders, taller. The shoulders are so broad. But the one thing I think is kind of funny with Tyree, the guy is so big, but his body is so big, it makes his head look like it's a shrunken head.
That's a good one. Cool, Kev. No, I'm just talking about, so like for me, like I don't get excited about players running drills, but one thing
Kev, you're right about that, Perot.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
You're absolutely right about that.
One thing I was kind of really excited about is they had Najee, Hampton, Raheem Sanders, and then two other guys. I think it was Haskins and another guy. These guys are all big. They're all over 6 foot, 200 some odd pounds. So you have like 4 or 5 of these guys, massive running backs, all doing the same drill. And it's neat to watch like these dudes, how they maneuver. But I'm excited about this running back group, man, because these are some dudes. So we need it, man, because last season's running game wasn't great. I think all 3 of our teams' running games were kind of just like not what we wanted them to be, or close to what they should be.
No, they were not.
Well, I know Richie's team picked up a UDFA that I was like, wow. And Sanders.
Which Sanders? Let me see.
Or was it your team, DZ? One of you two.
No. Oh, that Raheem Sanders.
Yes.
Rocket Sanders, yeah. Another guy that should have been drafted but was a UDFA. And I think it has to do with his age. And, I mean, he's already got kids and stuff. And I think there's a couple of these guys that they drafted, and they talk about having, like, oh, yeah, I got 2 boys. I'm like, wow. So this whole COVID year really, accelerated some of these guys' careers, let's just say.
A quick question, Kev. I heard you went on a show, dude. What show did you go on, bro? I hope you hook up a Lunatic, dude. You and Lunatic would be fire. You guys are both funny as hell.
So, with that in mind, let's move on to the Broncos stuff. There's a boatload of news that came out. I happened to get a bunch of stuff from a bunch of guys that I know in the media space and that were present throughout minicamp. Some interesting news came out. So just to kind of break down a few things. So we spoke about it on last week's show, both the invites and the UDFAs. And obviously we know our draft picks already because we kind of covered those the show before. All of those players were all combined in this past rookie mini camp that we saw, including some of the tryout players and stuff like that as well, right? So there's a guy that Jack will likely recognize, Cole Fotheringham.
Yep, I saw that.
We signed him after rookie mini camp where he was in as a tryout player.
Oh, wow.
And so he obviously popped, if you will. He has been a practice squad UDFA style guy that has been in the league, has started and played some games in the NFL, but generally speaking has not really been that starting guy. He's kind of been the sprinkled in guy from time to time is seemingly his role.
He's a good all around player.
Yeah, he pops. So he's got good hands that can block and all that kind of stuff. And so he's a little bit on a fast track, in my opinion, just because he's already gone through the bumps in terms of learning the NFL and whatnot as a young rookie. And so that's an interesting one.
Well, can I time out for a second?
Yeah.
Can I time out? Because I think this is really weird, but it's not with the Broncos. Did your guys' phones go off about your teams dropping the schedule officially? Because the Chargers just dropped their schedule officially, just not their hype, stupid videos. So we have 2 Monday night football games against the Raiders. Week 2.
Both Monday nights?
Weird.
And week 13. Oh, timeout. Did I just get that wrong? Wow, I just interrupted you because I saw something wrong. Okay, my phone's tweaking out then. Never mind. No. Oh, hang on. Stupid phone. I would show you what my phone just did. It's like it showed the Broncos TBD. It went through week 1 through 18 and then went to 1, 2, and 3 again. Never mind. I got freaked out there for a second. I was like, that's suspicious. I apologize, Richie. I just thought that would have been
Yeah.
weird if that was the case.
Yeah. So he's an interesting guy, I think, that tight end, because he's kind of a Troutman style player where he's kind of can pass catch and patch and block, and he kind of do it all, and he's already kind of overcome those initial hurdles when you come into the NFL, because the tight end is a very complicated position because you're basically having to learn pass catching, and this is assuming you're also an inline blocker, but then you also need to learn basically the blocking scheme of the offensive line. And it's not an easy position to come into the NFL and do like the entire complement of what you would be expected to do at the tight end position. So I think that's a really interesting one. And then you pair him with.
I find him, Richie, you're going to like him, bro. I mean, I can't remember. He got forced out just because, you got Brock Bowers, you got Michael Mayers, you spend high picks on him. And then last year they signed that tight end from the Bears who had like 700 yards, and they let him go. Nation, help me out. I forgot his name from the Bears, tight end. So, yeah, Fotheringham got pushed down. So I think you got a good one in that player.
I kind of see that approach as a little bit short-sighted, no offense, because you want to develop a young guy if you think he has potential and hold on to him.
No.
Ertz. You got Ertz.
Zach Ertz? No, we didn't get Zach Ertz.
No.
No?
Got it.
No.
But I think that the big issue there is that when you bump a young guy that you might be able to develop and keep him on like a 4-year cheap contract for your team, I just don't think cutting him is the right decision for most teams. You always want those young dudes that you can develop and have them come up in your system with your team.
If I recall right, I don't think they drafted him. I think they signed him.
UDFA.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's a difference.
Yeah, he was a UDFA. But, again, you want to develop those guys. You want to build those guys up on the roster to have them churn up to be, special teams, then maybe get onto the active roster and play some offensive snaps. Like, the best teams in the NFL, the ones that are perennial playoff teams, that's what they do. They develop these younger guys in like the UDFA later rounds, and they let them build and grow. And some of them get to be like second stringers. Some of them become starters. But at the end of the day, they're almost always quality special teams guys that they can churn through when and if they need, or use as trade bait, because some of those guys, if they develop them well.
There you go, right here.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. Cool, Kev.
So either way, I just think that's he's an interesting guy. The number one dude that is getting just an incredible amount of airtime is Kyrese White, wide receiver out of Utah State. I don't even know where to start in terms of the type of praise this guy is getting. The one word that I have heard used to describe his play that they saw when he was in the rookie mini camp was smooth and fluid. They were seen as interchangeable descriptors for how he played. He is a 5'10", 185 pounds, somewhere in that general range, prototypical slot style guy, but has punt and kick return resume on his resume as well. He's a guy that is actually going to be quite intriguing because a lot of guys seem to think that he could be a projected gunner on special teams and then be just thrown into the mix perhaps on offense as well. Now, whether or not he makes the roster or not, it's another story. He could be a practice squad guy, but either way, obviously the Denver Broncos were quite high on him because they kept and signed him. So, I mean, as a tryout guy, if you're impressing that much and you get kept like that, you're starting from below the bottom of the totem pole.
Right.
Like you were starting from buried in the ground and you got to dig yourself up to come out of that ground and to even be
better to work for the team than be a tryout at that point.
Yeah, because like even UDFAs and priority UDFAs, have a better chance at making the roster than a tryout player. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he not only made it, but he actually beat out some of the UDFAs and actually bumped a guy. So that says a lot about the quality of his play.
So you think this guy has a shot to make the 53 or practice squad, maybe?
I think he's a practice squad. I believe that with those types of skills, Peyton is a big proponent of elevating the practice squad players and treating the practice squad as like an extension of the 53-man roster anyway, with the call-ups and the things of that nature.
Sure.
He also often will call practice squad guys up to the roster on and off over the course of the season so that they get full checks, because that's his way of saying thank you for the work that those guys put in throughout the year. And so they see the bottom end of the roster kind of flip around to have some of the practice squad guys come up and whatnot. So, I mean, he could be one of those guys, and I think that's a reasonable take for him. I think he'd have to do something pretty incredible, actually, in order for him to, maybe lock himself in. But stranger things have happened. You know what I mean? Stranger things have happened. Another one, just to kind of quickly go through the other guys, was Jordan Turner. Turner is the inside linebacker that Judson and I, as well as Victory Lap last week's show, we're talking about. He had one of, if not the highest or second highest run stopping grades for linebackers coming into the draft. In terms of grades, he was excellent at run stopping. His pass protection or coverage was, we'll just say, not great. And that's probably why he dropped a little bit in the draft or went undrafted and ended up becoming a tryout guy. But he showed out. Literally, he showed out. And, we got a Kodiak Broncos. Woo-woo. Nice to see Kodiak joining the show here. Kodiak, welcome to the Wild Wild West. And so those are the guys that we hit. We made some corresponding roster moves, and this is where things got really interesting. We ended up getting rid of Kendall Bowler, Christian Dowell, and tight end Thomas Yasmin, and linebacker CJ Cloyd. CJ Cloyd was a kind of late season signing or futures contract signing for the Denver Broncos. And with the additions of the linebackers that we brought in, both in the draft as the undrafted free agents, that he basically didn't stand a chance. Christian Dowell, though, was a really interesting guy because he was that true, like, 330, 340 pound kind of D tackle, nose tackle style guy from a small school.
Boy.
He's a big boy.
Yeah, big
boy. And he was kind of one of the only real dudes that kind of fit that mold that we had within the team. He obviously didn't show out enough, although it is possible that they may bring him back kind of when things shake out for the practice squad if they really did actually like him but feel that they can, put him on ice, if you will, and just kind of bring him back later. It's possible, although I suspect that they've likely decided to move on given how early they cut him with the risks that are there with having other teams get exposed to him. And then tight end Thomas Yasmin. Now, Thomas Yasmin, as you may recall, I brought him up in a couple of our previous episodes. He was our international player. And we brought 4 guys in, but cut only, we signed 4, but then only cut 3. And the reason why we did that was because we were able to bring on our punter that we signed in the draft in the 6th round, Crawshaw. I think is the correct name. He's from Australia, so we were able to count him as our international player.
Nice.
Is he another rugby player? Seems all the Australians are rugby players.
Yeah, I think that's what his background is. Now, we can't continue that designation if he makes the 53, which he is slated to do. But in the offseason, this is Sean Payton and George Payton playing chess here. you can keep an extra skill player or defensive player by designating the punter prior to the 53-man roster cutdown. My prediction is that we keep Crawshaw. He will make the 53-man roster. And I do believe we bring back Yasmin actually as an international player, unless we have our eye on somebody else. But I think that our international guy will probably be Thomas Yasmin. And I think that the plan is to bring him back. And I think that's already been discussed. That's all the reports that I have are saying that that is likely going to be the case, and that the Broncos have actually already had those conversations with him. Now, obviously things change depending on other guys that get cut, right? Teams are obviously going to prioritize who they think and who they want, but those are some interesting things there. Some other interesting dudes that have come out and just been raved about. Pat Bryant and his route running and catching in rookie mini camp have been brought forward. And another one here is Clay Webb. Clay Webb, at the end of the rookie mini camp, had Sean Payton specifically call him out, address his character concerns, state that he has had multiple one-on-one conversations with him individually, and that he understands kind of the gravity of what he did back in high school. Let's be honest, this was in high school when this happened. It wasn't in college. And he's the swimmers.
He's in high school.
He's the swimmers and Gatorade guy. If you're wanting to kind of know, who he was, he is slated to fit in either at guard or center. I believe likely center. And I truly think that if he continues to show out and takes those reps and really shows up, he could be 53-man, and he could be one of those rare dudes that, might even start even rotationally and then take over that job. I'm hearing a lot of comparisons to him and Quinn Miners.
Ooh,
in terms of physicality. Clay Webb is a mauler in the run game, and I mean just mauler. And so I could see him kind of fitting into that mold, and with some extra polish and coaching and the right system and all those sorts of things, I could see some good things happening for him, so long as his character and work ethic has obviously changed, right? I don't think his work ethic was ever really a problem, but the character things of doing stupid things can impact the quality of your work on the field if you continue to do dumb stuff. It's a fact, right?
There's a lot of guys that have got caught up on some stupid stuff, right? For one reason or another. I'm not talking about the guys that had any essay or domestic violence, none of that stuff, but quote unquote these character issues or whatever that for some reason the media blows up, right? Or these analysts blow up and these guys just slide or don't get drafted, right? And it's kind of a shame, man. It's a real shame because last time I checked, football is a game of, warriors and savages, man. You need dudes that are just psychopaths, essentially, that can control it in, at 30-second bursts or what have you, and I just think about how many guys have just been, their careers ended for maybe some stupid prank or something they've done, and but they were more than enough, good enough to make the league.
I'll call the flip side of that too, but when you're in an industry where you're getting paid the way these guys are getting paid, you don't want to, spend your money on someone who definitely does have big character issues. I mean, it's just risky. You're
Sure.
taking a spot away from somebody else. You're spending that type of money. And then it's on the face of your franchise too. It gets looked at. It's like,
I don't know. I think we judge people you just don't throw. What's that saying? Don't throw stones in a glass house.
Yeah.
Who the hell are we to judge these people? Like, is like I said, as long as it's not one of those things I mentioned earlier, which there are some organizations that seem to overlook that, right? But and they're it went through in court, whatever. Okay, cool, right? We're not stupids, we're not dummies over here, But I'm like stop judging. Like, who cares? Like, what if they did something stupid? Like, look, and as long as it's not those other finite things. Like, for example, what's his name? And I know this is like an NFL thing, but that Tampa Bay receiver that got suspended for gambling, right? And I get that rule, but they made an example out of him. Like, it's like they crucified him. They're like, you're suspended for the whole season. Really good receiver. And he wasn't even betting on himself or his games. It was like some other games.
No, I that's the one thing I agree with, though. Like, so I think we spoke about it on the show. I'm not sure if you were in the
Well, you look at some of the greats, like Pete Rose as a good example, or was it White going back in the 20s for baseball? Was it White Sox or Red Sox, White Sox Johnson or whatever it is that right. Guy's name? Betting on your teams or whatever.
I mean, Pete bet on his own team, right? Like, he was a manager, player.
He was a manager at the time, but you as the manager, you're controlling who's playing, who's pitching.
Sure, no, I get that. Look, I get Pete's thing, dude, and I still think he needs to go in the Hall of Fame. Anyways, he is, and it sucked that they waited for him to die. I think they're all cowards, man, but whatever. Like, it's you're going to judge everybody just by mistakes they make in your life, then we're all screwed, right? Like, just look up what they did in the game, right? That's just all I care about.
Who was the Miami offensive lineman? He was slated to be like a top pick, and he dropped because he had
that was
Laramie Tunsil.
That was
Tunsil, because he had that the mask, the gas mask, and put a bunch of weed in there.
Yeah.
Now that's kind of dumb.
That was a hit job too. Somebody did that on purpose. Like, that was somebody going, haha, I'm gonna F with this guy's career.
Yeah, that was 100% a hit job.
Man, smoking some weed. Look, I don't smoke. I don't do that. As a kid, sure, but that's something I haven't touched in decades. But like, that to me, that's a bad image. Really, that's a bad image. Okay, cool. Like,
well, you can have states like California where it's legal, but the company you work for will have zero tolerance on it too. Sure. And that's the NFL.
I don't know if it's zero for the NFL. Is it still zero? Aren't they like
don't test for it?
Yeah, I think the NBA either, right? Like,
they don't test for it now. But what I was getting back to with the gambling thing, and the reason why I
mean, that was probably a bad example.
But I generally agree with it, and this is why. And I'm actually curious to see what you guys think, of whether or not you have a rebuttal that makes sense as to why I should change my mind, because I'm always open to that kind of stuff. But players in the NFL have an inside track on other players in the NFL and other teams in the NFL, given their relationships, as we were just talking about.
I get that.
And so my framework on this, and where I'm coming from, and why I have perhaps even a harder, but I have even a harder stance perhaps on it than even the NFL took, was like, I kind of want them to be publicly shamed. I kind of want them to go through that kind of thing, because I mean, it's almost like the equivalent of, like, I got a bunch of folks that I know that work for some pretty big organizations, and I know a lot of things that are happening at a lot of companies prior to when they're announced publicly. And if I were to then, say, for example, go and invest in the stock of those companies,
Wolf of Wall Street.
No, but I could do stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Where I could get in a month or two early, or 3 months early.
That's the whole U.S. government right there, what you just described.
Well, I mean, that's Congress. I agree. But ask Nancy Pelosi who her stock advisor is, because I want them too. But the point ultimately, though, is with these players is they have that insider baseball. They have that ability to know, hey, running back X, even though he's not announcing it, he's got an ankle problem.
Yeah.
And then you start noticing a decline in production. So then a dude like Godwin can then say, hey, Zeke, for example, when he was like obviously better than he is or was.
Zeke and Dallas, yeah.
Right. It'd be like, well, week 16, I know that the dude is, nursing an ankle injury, but no one's talking about it. And he hasn't told the team, but I know. And all of a sudden he's like, well, I'm going to bet the under on all his stats, and he can make thousands and thousands of dollars.
My whole deal is that they made an example out of him, right? Like they're like, you're suspended for a year. And I think that same season there was some stuff going on with, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. There were some other players, something happened. I think it was in the Ravens organization. And it was just like, that guy gets a year, right? No pay. You're done. You're not playing. And this guy gets like 3 or 4 games suspended. And what he did is arguably, in my opinion, much worse. And that's why me looking at the NFL now as it's changing, me being that old man, get off my lawn, seeing how the NFL is changing, it's getting to be this crazy business where it's like, let's protect our brand with the betting thing, but all this other stuff we can let slide. And those are my red flag. Those are my red line. Like, we don't cross that. Like, that stuff comes out, boom, nah, nope.
But you also got to remember this, there, DZ. It's like the NFL claims themselves not as a sport,
but
as
an entertainment industry. Yeah, my girlfriend told me that, or wife told me that. Girlfriend.
You better hope she didn't watch the show.
Yeah, she told me that a couple of years ago. She's like, you do know, and I'm like, what? So I looked it up, and I'm like, oh my god, and I was like, this makes sense, like. So, I mean, that's why. I mean, hey, look, we can see, even though it doesn't look blatant, the NFL pumps certain teams, points them in a certain direction. It's
flags go certain directions.
Yeah, right. Like, we don't all wear tinfoil hats, right? I mean,
yeah, this is for that way or this way. Whoever the KC, fan's gonna, host is gonna be. Yeah. Getting all those flags.
Yep. Well, I mean, there's a bunch of stuff that's occurring here in the Canadian election that's shady too, and I kind of rope all of that into kind of the same thing, which is, an anomaly happening once, totally cool, happens from time to time. Happening twice, you're like, that's strange, but still within the realm of, plausibility, right? You start seeing happen 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times, and you're like, okay, like, no, like at this point here, we've gone past reasonability and gone into absurdity, right? There's a line that's kind of crossed between A and B, and I think that's where a lot of the NFL fans that were opposing teams, also divisional rivals, and even some of the fan base within KC was like, look, I'm not going to complain, but I mean.
Well, in reality, the NFL needs to come out with like some form of chart. If you break this rule, this is what you get. You break that rule again, you get this much more. Versus it's all kind of just random, like whoever's on the panel at that time. And it's like, then it makes more sense, if it's all, black and white versus feel like, people are just drawing stuff in the sand, like, from one year to the next.
Jack. They make it up as they go, man. It's just like whatever they see fit. Goodell has seen himself as, the almighty leader. And look, this is.
Look, I as a Raiders fan, I feel like, the NFL has punished the Raiders more than any other team in the NFL and gotten worse penalties and worse stuff happened to them than any other team. So as a fan that, sees all the harshness of it and, talking about it, like certain players, getting, this type of penalty versus that, how long they're to be suspended for, come up with a rule book on it, just put it in black and white. You do this is what you get. And if it's a second offense, then, this is how much more expeditiously you're going to get punished for it.
Yeah, I mean, just to quickly put a top in that, we obviously have another Canadian here in the
Gord.
chat. So that's fantastic.
My boy Gord.
So basically, there's been at least 3 or 4 things that occurred here, but the 2 most egregious were in one writing, they did a recount, and the Conservative candidate here in Canada was up by like 20 or 25 votes. And every single one of the 25 votes that they were up by, like in terms of this total numbers, got flipped. Like basically 25 other Conservative votes got disqualified, and only 25 Conservative votes got disqualified. And then an additional 12 votes magically appeared for the Liberal Party to allow them to then flip the riding by 12 votes.
And those 12 votes are probably from people that died 100 years ago.
Right, exactly. And so there's like things like that have occurred. And then there was a recent recount that just occurred at the middle of this week or beginning of this week, where there's a Bloc Québécois party here, which basically is a party that exists only in Quebec, and they want to separate from Canada. That's their party's goal. And their party won a seat in Quebec. And then a recount was just done. And magically speaking, they found that the Liberals won by 1 vote. And then multiple voters have now come forward to state that they've had their ballots returned to sender from Elections Canada the day after they finalized the recount. And it's potentially being taken to court. And the Liberals won that riding by 1 single vote after that recount. There's just a bunch of really shady stuff that happened in the Canadian election, right? And it's
super shady in US and Canada.
Yeah. And so when Gord and I are making those comments, I realize that it is impactful by a much smaller margin, but we see that stuff here and that kind of nonsense happening here in Canada as well. It's actually worse, I think, in Canada, just because there's not as many eyeballs on the Canadian election. We're a much smaller country, and we're frankly much less significant than the United States in terms of the election and the results. So you just have less eyeballs, less attention, and so a lot of that stuff doesn't.
I honestly think elections, like I'd say as an American, needs to be a national holiday. Nobody works, and everybody has that. Nobody works. None of this. Everybody has a shot to go in person, whether. And now I get it. If you're overseas or you're in the military, you can do it that way. Or if you're in a hospital, I get that as well. Or you're a senior citizen in a assisted living. Sure, there's exceptions, but everybody else goes to the ballot box in person and have public transportation or something, because give people rides or whatnot. But
I like the mail-in votes.
Yeah,
I don't want to stand in those lines.
The mail-ins, you wouldn't?
I'd rather mail it in. I don't want to go stand in a big long line.
I don't trust. No, that's no.
It's the United States Post Office. That's a federal offense. You mess with the mail.
Yeah,
there's hours of evidence at them doing that, Jack.
Yeah. So, anyways, with regards to that, that's what's going on here. That's what that piece came about. Obviously, there's a handful of Canadians I know that have joined the show in the past. Gord being one of them. There's a few others that joined in as well. Just thought I'd give some context to that. But that's rookie minicamp. I know, Jack, you said you didn't have a ton of news come up from your.
I have some. And so, Gord, right here, bro. So I got Gord one of these.
Nice.
That's a dope hat. I like that hat.
No, it's not this hat, but it's a different hat. It got it signed by Lester Hayes.
I like the snow camo, the snow moss camo. That's rad. Or oak. I think it's oak, probably. Yeah.
So for the Raiders, it's like. It's nothing really exciting. The only one that was kind of cool to see was for the invitees to come out there was Jalen Smith. As you guys, everyone knows that I'm a big Notre Dame fan, and when he came out, in the draft that year, I think it was like the championship game. He tore his MCL, ACL in that game, so he was projected like top 2 pick in the entire draft.
Yeah, I remember.
And he dropped all the way down to like the first or second pick in the second round or something like that to the Dallas Cowboys.
Kind of like Campbell in this year's draft, the cornerback out of Michigan. But yeah.
So I was, he's already had a stint with the Raiders. He played 1 game. And, they impressed enough to Pete Carroll to where, they signed him to a contract. And, in the move that came afterwards, which is kind of a shock, I wasn't expecting this because the Raiders, they're deep enough on middle linebackers. We got the guy from the Steelers, and then we signed, White. And really, those guys are both middle linebackers. And last year in the 5th round, we got Tommy Eichenberg out of Ohio State. And, now we're adding Jalen Smith. So where the weakness is not the middle linebacker, it's
Coverage.
our off-ball linebacker, our coverage linebacker. And so the guy that was, released was Amari Burney. And Burney, our draft picks, let's see, I think Burney was a 6th-round draft pick in 2023. So he's still fairly young. And he's an off-ball linebacker, which the Raiders don't have a lot of depth on. So that was kind of a surprising cut, in my opinion. And a couple other notable ones, but, again, I would love to see, I would love to see Jalen if he can do something, but he sat out last year, again, because of the injury. So, now he's 8 years in the league. That's going to be a tough road and sled for him to actually make the squad. But you know what? Who knows? Maybe he might be a special teams player at this point. And I wouldn't mind him on the special teams. He's a big boy. And, he's got talent. It's just he can't stay healthy. I mean, 6'2", 242. So he's a big linebacker. But some notable, people that got signed, just for trying out, which I was really kind of surprised. There's many. A kid named Jahari Harvey, defensive end, 6'2", 255 out of MSU. I don't know a lot about him, but, the Raiders, again, we're talking character issues, right? So Snowden got his DUI. And the guy I brought up on the previous show, who was a top UDFA, who was projected out of the 5th-round draft pick, and now they signed this kid. So the writing might be on the wall for Snowden, depending on how his court case goes and how he performs. And then another kid that got, which is another wide receiver. And again, MSU, SMU, and Baylor. I don't know. The Raiders have picked up a lot of those guys. There must be some connections.
Michigan State.
I don't even know what it stands for, to be honest with you. Southern Missouri. No, Southern Missouri, I'm going to think. SMU.
Southern Methodist.
It's crazy. It's between that and Baylor, they, a lot of the UDFAs are coming out there. So the coaching connections, there's got to be something. I know the Raiders are always big in connections. So there's got to be some form of connection between them.
Right. Southern Methodist and
Baylor.
Yeah, I dated a girl who went to Baylor. That's a pretty cool school.
Nice.
They have a freaking a zoo enclosure in the center of their school with bears in it, which I thought was kind of wild.
You better hope your wife is not watching the show. You're talking about girlfriend versus wife, ex-girlfriends. So
God, she's not
watching this one. But Kentron Jackson Jr., wide receiver, 6'1", 203 out of Baylor. And, the surprise cut, off of that one was Christian Wilkerson. So, again, not Christian, the defensive tackle, but a wide receiver has been on the practice squad for a couple years. So he just got let go. And then another one that was another wide receiver, Keyshawn Smith, 5'11", 187 at SMU. So the ties on that one.
They must have some good scouts out there or something, or really know those schools.
Well, I just don't get it. They drafted 3 wide receivers, and their first, free agent pickup was a guy that played at UCLA for Chip Kelly, who's a slot guy. So, I mean, they're really going all in on the wide receiver, class, which, I mean, I'd rather pick up some more running backs.
Well, so I'd rather trenches, but I kind of agree with you here because then, like I was talking about earlier, they picked up another, big 6'2", 200-something, 4'3" guy, wide receiver. I'm like, okay, they really want to get some more receivers. Dude, I'm getting worse text messages right now. Sorry.
Well, depending on who it is.
No,
But,
it's not. It's not one. Actually, it's one of my I'll just tell you guys because it's kind of sad. One of my good coworkers I used to work with a long time. We were partners. He hits me up out of the blue. I haven't worked with him since I moved to Maryland, but he's like, "Oh, I'm back in Ohio. My dad's dying. Has 2 weeks left to live." I'm like, "Oh, Jesus Christ."
I'm sorry to hear
horrible.
that. That's
Sorry, bro.
that's going to be a tough deal, right? Like for sure, that's going to be a tough deal. So
Yeah, he hit me up about that. And I'm just like, "Oof, what do you
yeah,
say?" You know?
that's one of the things. There's really no good thing that can be said in that particular situation.
No.
Yeah, all I did was just message him like some stories he told me, you know, because we worked together for years. So it's like, okay.
Yeah. So, my theory on the reason why you bring in those wideouts is that you didn't like the depth you had on your squad, and you felt that you were upgrading the depth that you had on your squad. And a new regime is going to want new guys that fit what they're trying to do offensively. And Jack, I think, if I'm going to be honest, I think this is just part of your evolution now as a team. And if I'm you, I would be pretty happy about it. Actually, like, you know, I'd be really happy about it.
I'm happy to see, you know, more bodies. The more bodies, more competition. And Pete Carroll's all about competition. Mm-hmm. And, you know, they always bring in guys that wear the C on their chests for their colleges. So I'm glad to see it, but it's just fascinating to like see so heavy on one position after you already addressed it so much, when I see other bigger needs on this Raider squad, which for me, a slot corner is a big need. A off-ball linebacker is a really big need. A true free safety is a big need. I don't feel like a wide receiver at this point is a big need after you've already addressed it so much, you know, in the draft, and you address it, you know, in the UDFA signings, and now all these other kids are coming in. Yes, I want that competition, but when you sign guys, you got to let guys go, which is kind of, you know, surprising. You know, again, Amari Burney I thought, you know, he was going to end up being a backup to Amari Gainer at the off-ball linebacker if they don't sign any other guys, just because he is an off-ball linebacker. And then another big one that got cut was Matthew Butler. So he was a 5th-round draft pick in 2022. He never played any games. He's always been kind of, you know, practice squad type player, but he's been there for several years. So I'm going to guess he just, after, you know, drafting 2 defensive tackles, that it was just his time to go. So another one, this is one of, got to go this direction. This guy's old player, Tyreek McAllister. Again, he's a wide receiver / running back type player. He got let go, and he's super fast. I liked him in the preseason last year, but he didn't make the squad, and he did practice squad. And then, you know, they also waived Brandon Smith, another linebacker. So it's like, and they drafted, I guess, Wesley Steiner, 5'11", 235. So he's kind of a small linebacker out of Washington State. So I'm hoping, I haven't looked him up, but he intrigues me just for the fact, I'm like,
how would you say 5'11", 235?
Yeah.
He's in a weird shape, dude. Yeah, that's a weird size because he's, you know, they got these linebackers like, I've seen him, you know, 240. So he's a small, he's on the small side, man.
Well, he doesn't really fit. You know, again, I think, you know, a lot of these guys are going to be camp bodies as a whole, but it's going to be, I'm interested to like kind of look him up and actually read more about him to see what type of linebacker he is, because again,
they all got stories, man.
That off-ball linebacker is a big one. And they also signed Jonathan Sutherland, safety, 5'10", 202 out of Penn State. So don't know much about him either. Again, I'm thinking just at this point, another practice squad. Or again, if he's a free safety, then that would be intriguing because, again, the lack of depth in those positions, those 3 spots that I mentioned, then these kids have chances to actually make the squad. And I kind of have a weird feeling that, I mean, we had 11 draft picks. 11. And I feel like, all those guys will probably end up making a squad. So
Did you make 11 picks? Because we
they
had
11.
10 and
They had 11.
we had 10 and we only made 9 picks because we traded up. So, like, did
Well,
you guys
the
make-
Raiders traded back twice. So
Okay.
in the second round, they traded back. I think it was with Miami. And then they did one other trade. So that's how they ended up with 3 third-round draft picks. And they drafted, Porter, who's like, a cornerback. He was a wide receiver that converted in his very last year to be a cornerback. He's like 6'3", I don't know, like 205, 210, something like that, and runs a 4.30 40. So he doesn't have a lot of, experience, at the cornerback except for 1 year. And that's kind of cool. He actually said, "Hey, man, I could be the next Travis Hunter. Play me on both sides, coach. Play me on special teams." He's also had I think 4 blocked field goals in his college career. So he's also said he wants to play the special teams. So, and then getting two offensive linemen in the third round. So yeah, it's like some of these moves, like I don't get them. I like, they're bringing in certain positions, but man, I'm just feeling like they are going all in on the offense this year. And I think the defense really needs to be addressed a little bit more. So I'm just wondering, I'm hoping I think it's Hinton or Hilton. I think there's KC, they're Cincinnati players. There is a Hilton and Hinton on that squad. One of them is a free agent, but one's like 31 and he's like a slot corner. So I'm kind of looking forward to see what they do with that, because they still have like $36 million under the salary cap.
Yeah, I had a check in the Chargers. I know they still have some money because they obviously have a big signing thing to make. I just saw something, Jack. Our Monday night game there's 2 Monday night games, week 2, but it doesn't start until 10 o'clock my time. 10 o'clock at night. Like, what
Ooh.
the hell? That is brutal.
Yeah, that's perfect time over here, 7 p.m. then.
Yeah, because it's Bucks at Texans, 7 p.m. Eastern, and then Chargers at Raiders, 10 p.m. Eastern. That is trash, man. Like, what
That's
the hell
late.
are they? Dude. Oh, man. I don't know, dude. Chargers came out with some Minecraft thing. Not a fan because I'm not a child, but I still got to watch it to see. You guys have kids, I'm assuming, so.
Yeah, mine are
My
older.
son will go wild, and then I will shun him for liking something that has a Chargers logo on it.
It's got like hidden things or whatever. Have you guys looked at your guys' schedules yet? Like,
Yes.
to see? Yeah, you have. Okay.
No, I'm limited of what I've seen so far.
I have
All I saw
posted
was
my predictions
preseason.
already in the chat.
Oh, did you think about these, or you just?
That's my gut reaction and just a quick assessment of which team we play which week.
What are you guys going undefeated? What? Oh wait, week
What
1.
the hell?
Okay. No, okay. You look. Can you see him, Jack?
I'll have to look. Yeah, I can see it in the chat. I got to look up who you're playing against, though, Richie.
I think we play them week 4, right?
Yep. So maybe we'll go right into the schedule thing, and we'll just kind of go off of that as a first gut reaction, and we can kind of discuss it, and then kind of go to the other teams after the Broncos, and we'll go there. So the leaked schedule turned out to be correct for my Denver Broncos. Week 1 is against the Titans. While the Titans have been much improved, I still think that my Denver Broncos are the better of those 2 teams, and that is Titans at Mile High. So that is Titans at Denver, which I think is going to be a win.
I think you're going to have like 6 sacks.
Yeah,
that's Cam Ward, right?
Yes, that's Cam Ward. That's Cam Ward. Yeah.
I like him, but we'll see.
I like him, but the problem is like that's your first NFL game, and unless you're
right,
like that's not the that's the NFL's leading pass rush team. Like that's like welcome to the NFL sort of game, right? And so
you throw to the wolves in your first game.
And keep in mind the Broncos just re-solidified their secondary with Jade, in the first round. We got Hufanga again to back up in the safety position there. We got a couple even undrafted and drafted safeties. Just the secondary for the Broncos in the back seven is very strong.
Well, your linebackers are strong too, and they can cover.
Yep.
So, I mean, that
Jack, I got you guys as
punishment.
preseason opponents: Seattle, San Fran, and the Cardinals. I'm looking for their schedule.
So all I know is the NFL gods are like saying, you know, F you, Ward.
Yeah.
You're going to get smoked.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel bad for Cam, dude. Broncos, no.
So I'll just kind of quickly go through the first 4 weeks. So it's
Broncos, go through the Broncos, yeah. Well, bless you.
Bless you.
Oh, sorry about that. It's the Titans, the Colts, the Chargers, and the Bengals.
Ooh,
and so in order, I have the Broncos beating both the Titans and the Colts. And then I have us losing to the Chargers.
Is it home or away?
That's at home. Oh, is it away?
Yeah, it's in LA.
Okay, so I have us losing that game. And then week 4, I have us beating the Bengals on Monday Night Football.
Dude, what they're doing to Trey Hendricks.
Is that home or away?
Yeah. Have you guys seen that the Trey Hendrickson stuff?
That's at home.
Oh yeah.
Fuck, man.
So the Bengals is at home.
I would love that guy in LA, man.
I'd love him in Las Vegas. I think every team wants a Trey Henderson. I heard the only thing about him is that he's kind of more selfish about himself, like, you know, just wanting to rush the ball and not tackle.
Huh. I did not hear that about
That's
him.
the only, and I heard that from a Bengals fan.
Dude, I've been okay. Well, he's probably glazing for Burrow and his 2 receivers, but dude, he is their defense, man. Like, in my opinion, like that organization, it's so head scratching on how they run the Cincinnati Bengals. Like, I mean,
well, you look at it, you know, it's like, okay, your quarterback's getting over $50 million a year. You got the wide receiver premium position are making the big bucks, the top money at wide receiver. And now you got a defensive end, which is a premium position too. I mean, how in the hell do you pay these guys? And I mean, I'm sure you can figure out, man, bring in a GM from the Saints or the Rams. And I'm sure, you know, they would figure it out.
Yeah, so I agree. But either way, I do think that there's going to be some turmoil there. And I do think that the Bengals are too heavy in certain positions, which weakens their roster in others. And I think that kind of bodes well for when we play them. And then up next, we have Eagles, the Jets, which is the international game in the UK. And then the next week after that, the Giants. And I have...
You get the Eagles week 5?
Week 5.
In Philly or in the Denver, do you know?
That is in Philly.
So I think we're playing them in Philly too, if I'm not mistaken.
So my thing here is I see us losing to the Eagles for sure. Like that one, I just have it marked as a loss on our calendar, and I think
don't say that. Come on, Richie. Have some faith in your Broncos.
No, I'm being realistic.
Your offensive line was, you know, pretty good. I mean, you know, seeing where they're ranked, I'm like, I was really impressed that they're ranked as high as they were.
You're missing the point. This is not about the offensive line. This is about the Eagles' offensive line versus the Broncos' defensive line.
Yeah. And
the reason why this is important is the Broncos' defensive line is one of the lighter units in the NFL. They don't have those big 320, 330-pound dudes on the defensive line.
That's what Tom was doing to us too.
Yeah. And so what you end up with is against decent teams, you do okay. But then when you get these big built teams that are elite, and I would certainly categorize the Eagles' offensive line as elites. Like they are a bunch of dudes. Let me tell you, right? We saw what they did in the Super Bowl, and they just decimate. Like that was a bulldozer on both sides of the ball in that Super Bowl. And so my point being is that I believe that my Denver Broncos are going to equally struggle when it comes to those big boys up front on the defensive line, and the fact that they have rotation at that position to keep those big guys fresh on the defensive line for the Eagles. I think that's going – sorry, on the offensive line. I think the offensive line is just so good that they're going to overpower my Broncos defensive line just based on size. I predict Barkley is going to have one heck of a game, and I think that's going to make it very difficult for us. I'm just being realistic. We did not do well against teams like that.
Wait. Who did we play last year? Was it the AFC North?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we talked about the same stuff about the big boys. How did your team do last year against them?
Not well.
Not well?
We went 2 out of 2, I believe. And, losing to the
I'm
Ravens.
going strictly off of memory. I think we were 1-3.
Steelers beat our ass, but we were coming off of, like, injuries, and it was their homecoming opening.
Right.
They worked our ass.
So
I think I got 2 wins. So 2 out of my 4 wins, I think, came off of their team.
So the next 3 games, including the game in England, I have the Broncos winning. So it's in England against the Jets, week 7 against the Giants, and then week 8 against the Cowboys. The Cowboys and Broncos in recency bias, we have basically shellacked the Cowboys every single time we have played them, both at Jerry World and here in Denver.
That's Thanksgiving game, right?
I have to look at the date.
Yeah, I think you guys got the Amazon Prime Thanksgiving game.
So that's 10/26. So that might be that's October.
No, that's not Thanksgiving.
That's not Thanksgiving. That's October 26th.
So I thought you guys got a holiday game.
So week 9 is 11/02, and then week 10 against the Raiders. November 6th, that's U.S. Thanksgiving, isn't it?
No, it's 25th is our Thanksgiving.
25th?
But it's a Thursday night game, I thought.
I got so thrown off by Richie saying Thanksgiving. I'm like, wait a second. And then I go, oh, yeah, duh. Like, okay, hang on.
It's Broncos and Chiefs on Christmas Day.
Okay, that's the one. That's the one. I think they got the headliner on Amazon.
Yeah, so we're up against them on Christmas Day for the Chiefs. So that's a big one, obviously.
Hey, if the Raiders can win on Christmas Day versus the Chiefs, your Broncos can win against the Chiefs.
Yeah. So I have a 3-game win streak occurring there after the loss to the Eagles. So we beat the Jets, we beat the Giants, and then we beat the Cowboys. And then I have – so that brings us to week 9. And I have us losing to the Texans. And then on prime time against the Raiders, because that's at home, if I'm not mistaken, I have us beating the Raiders at home. I believe that we're splitting with the Raiders this year, just to be clear.
I think we're all feel like we're going to split.
Week 10, isn't that? I thought that was Thursday night in Las Vegas.
Let me see here.
Yeah. Week 10 is looks like
at Denver
Thursday night game.
Yeah, it's at Denver.
It's in Denver. It's at Denver. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's at Denver. So I have the Broncos beating the Raiders in that game, but I don't have the Broncos sweeping the Raiders. I think the Raiders have done enough to make these games far more competitive this year, and I think that we're going to split.
I love the Raiders' schedule.
Yeah.
Like, you guys have a chance to really do pretty well this year. Your guys'
Did they just release this when we're doing the show? Because I was looking it up.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I have the Broncos and Chiefs when we play. We have some really weird, just things are just work out oddly. the Broncos a lot of the times will lose to the Chiefs at home, but then beat the Chiefs on the road. And given the history there, I see no reason to try to bet against that from happening. Just because it happens so frequently, and it's just, there's no sense in fighting kind of what happens. And so I have the Broncos losing to the Chiefs at home going into our bye week in week 12. And then in week 13, I have us beating the Commanders.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I think we beat the Commanders. I think that is certainly doable for us. I think it is definitely something we can do. We have a good enough defense to kind of start playing a different way. And that is Sunday Night Football. And then week 14, we play the Raiders. And week 14, I see us losing to the Raiders. That's in Las Vegas. And then I have us back-to-back losses here. I have the Broncos losing to Green Bay in week 15. And then I have week 16 and week 17, Jaguars and Chiefs respectively. I think the Broncos win both of those. And then I have us losing to the Chargers in week 18.
Well, then you have us sweeping you, which I don't see happening.
Pardon me?
I think you have us sweeping you then.
Yes, you're correct.
No, that's not going to happen.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you know why I think that happens?
I mean, sure, tell me, but I don't.
Sure. So I think that your team is built in such a way that it's built to give the Denver Broncos current roster build fits. I think that there are issues where your offensive line, especially early in the season with the big dudes up front and your new running backs, are built to wear down teams like the Denver Broncos with lighter interior defensive linemen. And I think that with the three-headed monster that you have going on there with the 6', 220 kind of all-round backs, you've put yourself in a position as a team that can really wear down teams like the Denver Broncos. And I don't think that's a stretch. I don't think that is something that is beyond the pale.
Well, I need a big giant piece of wood near me because we got to knock on some wood here. Because
I do agree with Richie. I feel like your offensive line is going to be tremendous. Guys, I feel like could be one of the best offensive lines in the NFL.
No.
But at the same time, I feel like your defensive line is very thin. So
this is where I'm going to flip it. I love this. This is where I'm going to flip it because no, I don't think my offensive line is top O-line unit, which everybody's excited they got Becton. Becton does have an injury history. He only played 1 year at guard for the Philadelphia Eagles, who were already an elite line themselves, right? So I'm still happy we got him because that right side is going to be, it was our left side 2 years ago. That was the really good side to run behind. And then that didn't work out last year. Now, Zion Johnson, they didn't extend or take his 5th-year option. So if that shows you any confidence they have in him, they were like, okay, look, dude, like you're essentially playing in a contract season right now at left guard. And look, he's a smart kid, man. He's a very athletic guard, but he cannot identify stunts to save his life. And that's a scary situation. And then we have Bradley Bozeman or Andre James going to be our center. Now, I think Andre James is going to would be a slight improvement over Bozeman, and I'm kind of rooting for him. But
he's solid. He's just going. The only thing he's going to suffer. He's smart. He's a smart player. He knows how to read his gaps and stuff. But he's a little bit smaller. So I mean, when you go up against like those big boys,
which we do,
the big nose tackles, then yeah, I watched him, get pushed back like with Chris Jones. But everybody does, you know what I mean, with Chris Jones.
Yes,
but he is a smart player and he knows how to run the center position.
My scare.
Honestly, I didn't want to let him go, but it's all about salary cap money. For the Raiders, they wanted to eat it this year, so they get it next year.
The Chargers only signed him for like $1 million something. Like
he signed a 3-year, like $24 million contract or something like that with the Raiders.
I don't know what they're selling these guys in LA, but they got everybody on really good deals. I think they all said, look, you come here, you ball out, we'll get you paid here or get you paid somewhere else. Puna got paid by the Rams. Christian Fulton got paid by the Chiefs. And Morgan Fox ended up going to Atlanta or something. Okay, let me flip it to the D-line. I've kind of been looking at these D linemen, and they're not household names by any means. Nothing like what the Broncos have, the Raiders, or the Chiefs. Tiertar, Hand, Jones, Campbell, the rookie I'm talking about. And then you have Matlock from last year, but I honestly don't see him as a really good D tackle. He was our fullback. And then Tito Abonia, who is a nose tackle I was high on from UCLA. I've seen enough. I don't think he's anything special, and I hope he's not watching because he could kill us all. But anyways, he's a massive human. But the guys they brought in, they pretty much said, look, dude, ball out. We'll get you paid. And these guys have good film. Like, they are good foundational pieces. They are solid D linemen, like all savvy, like really good guys that just have been overshadowed by teammates on that line. You know what I mean? Like edge guys on this line here, or their D tackle partner on another line. So I'm actually excited. I think this D line can become a strength on this team. And
wow.
I'm actually
I'm surprised.
Yes, I am too.
I don't follow him like the way you follow him, but just after Puna Ford left, I was like, man, Puna, like. So last year, he was like one of the guys that just stood out to me. I was like, how do you not resign that kid?
Well, he chose to go to the Rams, and the same with Tampa Bay Trey with PFF. Why did the Chargers let him walk? Well, it's been said over and over, we did not let him walk. He chose to go to the Rams. He chose to take their offer over our offer. So he went to the Rams, who have a really good D-line, up-and-coming youthful D-line in LA, to share the stadium with us, or we share with them. Anyways, Puna's 5'11", man, 330 or whatever. He's an awesome player. I'm more excited about this guy that we got that's 6'2", same size, and was a beast in college. Now, look, can he beat Puna? I don't know. I think his ceiling is going to be higher than Puna Ford's, in my opinion. And that's me being a homer. But I like what I said about that running back room and this D line, I think are underrated. And the O line, I'm not so high on. Why? Because they still have that left guard and center issue, in my opinion. Like, I'm like, Justin has to go back. 3rd and long, I'm like, oh shit, here we go.
Well, didn't you guys change your offensive coordinator last year? It's like, I'm thinking Zion. No,
same.
Oh,
yeah, we only lost like.
Okay, now I'm seeing why you're saying that. I was thinking Zion would take a jump.
Well, this is Zion's last year in his rookie, through his rookie contract. And look, he's a great kid. He just wasn't worth the 17th overall pick in the draft, in my opinion. Like, for what his play has been, when you pick a guard in your first round, in my opinion, they better be damn good. And look, to me, he's like an average guy, but I watched him play against some pretty good D lines and get, exposed by stunts, especially in that playoff against Houston. But look, that Houston game, we didn't have Trey Pipkins, who I don't think is going to start for us. I think he's going to be a backup, and albeit in a very expensive backup. I kind of wish they would have traded him to somebody who needed a guard or a tackle. But yeah, now look, there's a plus side of that, Jack, about the O-line is Herbert got some new weapons to play with. So, maybe he doesn't have to sit back in the pocket that long to throw the pigskin, So there's that, So I have, they did bring in some guys. They brought in quite a few new pass catchers, with Conklin and the tight end and Mike Williams, and then Trey Harris and then Keandre Lambert-Smith and then that hybrid tight end Gadsden. And then, so there's some guys they brought in to help him out because last year it was Ladd McConkey and Will Dissly were the only two who he could rely on. And Will Dissly was not known to be a pass catching tight end by any means. I don't know. If they have a down year, the Chargers, I could see it because of schedule, because I still have pause. Like, this team didn't beat any good teams last year. The only good team they beat were the Broncos. So, and our schedule got much tougher. So it's like, I can't be super pumped and think these teams going to go to the playoffs and whatever again. Look, they got to beat some good teams, man. They got to prove it, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, you got a totally different schedule. The year before, it's like you were playing easier teams based on your win-loss record.
Yeah,
and this year you're going to be playing harder teams.
Philly, we got Philly Monday night, week 14. Like, oof. I think our week 14 through 18 is a gauntlet.
I don't like the beginning of your schedule is brutal.
Yep. Check. Did you see the beginning of our schedule, Richie? It's all division opponents.
I know.
We play everybody.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah. Holy shit.
Yeah. So you go at KC. It's KC at home, at Vegas, and then
Broncos,
and then Denver at home. And
that's so tough.
I think within those 3 games, you have a legit, you could go anywhere from 0-3.
Yep.
Like, legitimately, I'm not saying that any shade in your direction at all. You can go anywhere from 0-3 to the complete polar end. It's going 3-0, right? Like, literally, you could go in either direction. I think realistically speaking, you're probably going 3-2, 2-1, or 1-2. I think that's the more realistic kind of outcome to that, which is, and it all depends on how put together and how buttoned up is your offense and defense going to play this year. And if it's buttoned up, I think you can go 2-1. If it's not buttoned up, I think you're going 1-2.
Yeah. And then I look at right after the bye, week 12, it's Raiders, Eagles, Chiefs, Cowboys, Texans, Broncos. That is a hell of a freaking ending to a season.
I'll say this, DZ, what I find is really weird is that, the home games, when we play you guys on your stadium, there's more Raider fans.
Yeah.
But we never win in your stadium. We always lose. So that week 2 game, when you come to our stadium, it seems like, I feel like, that's going to be a win for the Raiders. But when we go to your stadium in November 30th, I feel that's going to be a loss.
The thing that gives me a pause about the Raiders that week 2 is it's going to be a new thing, right? The Raiders are going to be unveiling new toys, new everything. Look, it's still going to be that same defensive scheme, and then they're going to be able to go and look at Chip Kelly's offensive scheme, and they're going to see Pete's teams and stuff like that. But it's still going to be relatively pretty new. They're going to have 1 week really to look at.
It's all going to be based on what team can establish the run. Honestly, whoever can establish the run in that game, that's the way I see it going.
You got RJ Harvey, Genty, Hampton, 3 new running backs. It's going to be pretty fun to watch these guys in the AFC West, man. Because I don't think any of these teams are going to be easy for any of these guys, man.
No.
I know Richie's kind of, slighted on his light D line, but look, that's speed.
Dude, that defense I will say Denver's defense is the best in the AFC West.
That's what it looks like.
As a whole.
Yeah. So that's how I feel.
Well, I think
with that new backfield and Greenlaw,
well,
it's like, whew.
I would say, look, on
We're
paper,
projecting, I guess. Yes.
On paper, I would certainly say the paper tiger would say there's a possibility that you're correct.
I mean, the Chiefs still exist too.
Yes,
so
yes.
That.
Yeah, so the paper tiger says maybe, right? However, we have to remember that the Broncos, if we're being honest, after like week 7 or 9, I can't remember which week it is. It was somewhere in that general range. The Denver Broncos defense really started to get exposed. So yeah, we were getting pressures and sacks, which really skewed our numbers because a sack really is a massive difference maker for your team. And so it's kind of going underreported how big of an important stat the sacks were for the Broncos last year in 2024. But if you actually look at the overall production and points allowed, when you look from like week 9 to the end of the season, we had like an average of allowing almost 30 points a game against us. And that's not good. Like that means you have a leaky defense. That means your defense is allowing, passes to be thrown on you. You're allowing runs, to succeed on you.
You guys brought in some guys to help that out, right?
Right. So we solidified the back end and stuff like that. But this is why I say paper tiger, right? Because right now on paper, those guys are healthy or will be healthy, right? On the back end and in the linebacking core. Greenlaw has an injury history and is coming into the season hurt, so we don't know where he's going to be come beginning of the regular season. Is he going to be fully healthy, partially healthy? Who knows? Hufanga on paper is statistically an excellent safety. Certainly no shade for me.
Big fan of his.
However, he also has an injury history where he has been hurt a fair amount of time. And so then the question is, can they stay healthy throughout the entirety of the season? If
these guys from LA by any chance?
No, they're was it Niners, Hufanga and
No, I'm kidding.
No, they're both Niners.
Yeah.
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 Linebacker and safety.
Yeah.
It's the water in California.
Yeah. And so I mean, I guess it's the high taxes there that are killing them, but the problem with these guys is that they keep on getting hurt, that we brought in. And so if they can stay healthy, then I think we have a shot. If they can't stay healthy, then you're then going right back to the similar defense, like assuming that the guys that were starting last year get kept on as depth players this year or some variation thereof. You're then putting out a very similar defense to what we had last season. And teams now have tape on how to beat that defense and or at least expose certain players for their weaknesses. And so I think that there are some fair comments to be made there that we need to be cautiously optimistic as Denver fans. I am always more cautious than I am gung-ho, but on certain players, when I see certain things and certain traits, I'm like that, like that thing right there. And I have a pretty good track record of picking those traits out, which I think is an important piece. Because that's why, I'm getting questions and stuff like that on Twitter about the Broncos and why I'm brought on other podcasts and stuff to represent the Broncos.
Yeah.
But I'm always realistic in terms of what I see. And right now, I will agree, as a paper tiger, the Broncos look quite good. But I'm cautious, very cautious.
I predict, I can very well see 3 teams out of the West. Look, I don't know if this is ever possible, 4 teams, but I think it all stems from QB play from the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think the Steelers, if that really is Aaron Rodgers, then I feel like they have a shot, right? I think they're going to be a playoff team. Now, supposedly Aaron Rodgers got a membership to some exclusive club or something in that area, so signs are pointing to him being in that as a QB. But
interesting. I kind of heard some Saints rumors too.
Well, Saints are a hot mess, man. You got to feel bad for them with what the hell's going on down there.
I don't feel bad for them. They kept extending guys, messing with that salary cap.
I feel bad for the fans, man. They got a good fan base down there, but yeah, I know. Look, like I could see this division, this AFC West division is going to be battle tested, man. And if they can resemble any sort of health towards the end of the schedule, like these four teams are going to be a force to reckon with, dude. Like I honestly, I've seen what like the just even like I know the Raiders are new, but I saw like what they could do on offense, and then I just saw who they brought in this season, and I'm like, wow, that's gonna really help them out. It's gonna be upgrade Geno, Dash, like just stuff like bringing in RJ Harvey, and then that secondary in Denver, like Christ, and then the Chiefs. They know what their weaknesses were. They got embarrassed in the Super Bowl. They're like, okay, that's not happening again. We're gonna shore this up ASAP.
It's gonna be interesting with the Chiefs, like with that draft pick they had in the first round.
Simmons.
In our mock draft, that's the guy I took, and I like him. But the question is, how healthy is he going to be? At least in the beginning of the season.
I think they got another running back too. I can't remember who. Oh, we need some Chiefs representation to come back on the show because we're like trying to remember their team. Can't remember all of it, but anyways.
I honestly, I don't feel like they're as strong as team this year as they were. Even though I thought they hit their draft well based on their position. You're drafting second to last, and you only got so many draft picks. That trade with the Eagles was great. I mean, you gave up one spot, and you didn't even want the guy.
The only thing I
took, and you got Simmons.
Yes. The only thing I'm projecting with the Chiefs, like I can't project their record because we always try to count them out, and it never works, right? Like
no, you always got to count them in.
They've owned our division for a very long time, and it's getting old. I think the whole Chiefs narrative, the whole everything. Mahomes is an elite QB. Sure, he's an elite QB, but he plays on an elite team, in my opinion, with an elite organization. But he has not been playing at an elite level for at least 2 seasons, in my opinion. He does deep and dunk, and he knows the rules, what to do. He's just hands the ball off, screen pass. He wasn't doing what he was doing with Tyreek Hill, which really made everybody go, "Oh my God, Mahomes!"
Well, they changed their whole philosophy. It seems like they went from being an offensive team to a defensive team.
Well, see, this is my prediction: is they go slightly back to the Tyreek Hill kind of days. They go to a pass-heavier approach in 2025.
I agree.
That's what I see them going, and we'll see if it works. But
I don't think did P. Ryan come back?
Yeah,
Samaje.
Yeah.
They still got Pacheco, who's a hell of a running back.
Not P. Ryan, Pacheco.
I thought they drafted a kid in the draft too.
I think P. Ryan may have gone back to the Bengals.
Let me see.
But either way, the Chiefs have Kareem Hunt still, who's sticking around. They got Pacheco.
Pacheco is underrated. I don't know if he's underrated.
Well, yeah. I mean, he was undrafted, and look at him.
Yeah. So I really do think that the Chiefs are.
So round 7. Sorry, guys. Brashard Smith out of SMU, running back. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. He's going to be a depth guy. He's going to be a depth guy for them, and depending on where he's at, he could be the 3rd guy or 4th guy, if they like him. But I think the Chiefs are going to try to stick to speed. I think they're going to try to return back to leveraging Mahomes' arm, trying to let plays develop, use the run game and pass game as counterpoints to one another, as opposed to dink and dunk style play.
I mean, look, it's worked for him, right? But I just
everything they do works for him.
A little too well. I just see them opening it up. I see them going back to a pass heavier approach, in my opinion. I see signs pointing because, like, with the receivers they have coming back, well, we'll see with Knucklehead if he gets suspended for a few games. I forgot his name. Rice.
Rice, yeah.
Yeah, but picked up Jalen Royals, round 4. That's another.
Let's do a little quick rundown on their schedule. They open up at home against the Bears. We'll just rattle through it quick, and so we can get our stuff in.
The Chiefs?
They're playing. They're opening. The Chiefs are playing the Bears.
No, they don't.
Oh, no, it's preseason. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
They play the Chargers
in Brazil, Sao Paulo, which, by the way, is 4 hours ahead of us. I thought it was 3.
Neutral ground. I'm sorry, DZ. I think the Chiefs will win that one.
Yeah.
Then they play the Eagles in week 2. I think the Eagles will win that one. Agree or disagree? And I'll just keep rattling them off.
I agree.
Look, I can't say that we're going to beat the Chiefs because we haven't beat them since 2021 or something like that. So it's getting embarrassing.
Well, it's a home game for you, so you guys gave up a home game to go play in a different country.
Jack? Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, the Chargers had 2 games that they could block, and they chose not to block this one. So I find that interesting.
So then the Chiefs play the New York Giants.
That's a win for the Chiefs.
I think they win that. So now they're 2-1. Then they play the Ravens.
Ooh, that's going to be a good game.
The Ravens going to be a very good game. That's a bit of a coin flip. So, but until proven otherwise, let's assume Mahomes ekes out Jackson, which I think is fair.
That is fair because they have beaten them in the playoffs a couple times.
Yeah. So that puts them at 3-1. Was it 3-1? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 3-1. Then they're at the Jags, which that's 4-1.
Win.
Then they play Detroit, and I think that's 4-2. I think Detroit's they're.
I think Detroit will win that one.
Yeah, so that's 4-2. Then they play Vegas, which I think that's a win for the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are.
I'm kind of going opposite. I'm going opposite. I feel like the Raiders lose more at home than they do on the road. And the last time they played the Chiefs, they lost by 2 points.
Okay.
So
that's at Arrowhead. So I think
Chiefs, I get it. That's what I'm saying. The Raiders seem to play better on the road again. Same thing. I feel like my team plays better on the road than they do at home.
So that's 4-3. Then they play the Commanders.
Oh man, that's another good game.
That's a tough one. So they're 4-3 now.
I'll take the Commanders.
And so that's 4-4. Then they play the Bills at Buffalo.
Oh Jesus Christ, they got a hard schedule.
Yeah. So I mean, they could be anywhere from 5-4 to 4-5, and then they could be anywhere from 6-4 to 4-6 after playing Buffalo.
I'm just trying to think. Do teams try to replicate, which is easier said than done? Do teams try to replicate the Eagles against them, or like how do you play the Chiefs? Because I don't know.
Well, the question that you have once you get to the Commanders game, you have a pretty good idea of what you're getting with the Chiefs at that point.
Yeah.
And that's by week 8. Whether or not they're going to go chuck it over the field or either chuck it over the field or you're going to go for the dink and dunk Chiefs.
I'm just like, there's no way that the majority of fans or people are watching are tuning in to watch the Chiefs. If that's the case, then what is going wrong with our sport, man?
So just to quickly blast through some of the last ones here.
Yeah.
They're at Denver.
I see the Broncos win.
Then they're at home in Indy.
Chiefs win.
Sorry, Indy is in Arrowhead. Then they're at Dallas, which I think the Chiefs win.
Chiefs win, yeah.
Then they are at Arrowhead versus the Texans. Now that's a tougher game for them. That I could be convinced either way.
Yeah, I think I'd pick Chiefs on that one.
And then it's at Arrowhead against the Chargers. The Chargers are at Arrowhead there.
So I got a question, DZ. So like I just mentioned, I feel like my team plays better on the road. half the time more than at home. How does your team? Do they play better on the road, or they just play better at home?
There was
Because
a
that will
couple
determine which way I go.
There was a couple seasons ago that they were really good on the road. I'd have to look at their last season. Like again, this is all new, like to me with this regime, like right. So it's hard for us to go off of just 1 year with Jim. But all I know is we didn't beat any good teams. We lost to the Bucks. They beat the brakes off us. We lost to Arizona, who we should have beat. They were feisty, low key, and then I mean, I don't know, man. But
I feel like
Richie,
I feel like you'll split. I feel like you'll split against the Chiefs. But
Richie
again,
didn't also say that how many primetime games the Chiefs have. I think it's like 6 or something like that. Like,
well, they've earned it.
So basically, as we've just gone through it, our rough prediction for the Chiefs this year is anywhere between 10-6 and 11-7.
All right, so DZ, I just want to hear your thought on the December 14th game. Win or loss?
Against the Chiefs?
The Chiefs, yeah.
In Arrowhead, right?
In Arrowhead.
Look, that towards that late end of that season, like that's playoff pushing time, and you need those division games, man.
My whole thing is like, I look at your Chargers and I just wonder.
Well, I'm looking how they're set up
on injuries and like how you play on the road versus home. So I think you split. I mean, I'll be honest, you can go either way on either game, but
I think we take the Chiefs in Brazil week 1 by like some tiny small margin,
like a field goal or something.
Yeah, something
okay, I can see
like
that too.
And then I think we lose to them late in the season, which is not good because like I think we end the season out with the Broncos or something like that, and it's just like there are some very pivotal games that my team plays in the late part of the season that have got me, I can't predict the future, right? We don't know who's going to be hurt. But Richie, you were talking like how they're built, like they run the ball. So I'm hoping that this favors them, where they just want to do this ground and pound attack and just run the hell out of the ball on some guys.
Yeah, the Chiefs are tough to pound the rock over the last few years. And then the Chiefs got the Titans. Well, I feel like it's gonna be a coming out game for the Chiefs, just a way of dominating. I think they're going to smoke the Titans. I don't think it's going to be close.
I don't even know what the Titans' identity is. Like what kind of team they are.
Well, I don't know either, unless Cam Ward is going to be like Richie's boy, and just like step up like that. Who knows? I just can't see that happening though with the Titans. Yeah. And then it's the Broncos and Chiefs. I had Richie's team winning in the first game. I see it a split because it's an Arrowhead.
What week that's the Christmas one?
Yeah, the Christmas one. Earlier I said it might be Christmas, so Kansas City doesn't play great on Christmas, but when you play,
it's gonna be a good game, man.
You play a Mile High, it's like it's automatically a disadvantage because the players' lungs living in Colorado.
Yeah,
that's where like the Olympians, they train.
Yeah.
To there's less oxygen, so expands your lungs. So when you go to lower elevations, you got like more pep in your steps. So
I wanted to hate that game so bad, and I think it's going to be such a good game. Broncos Chiefs Christmas headliner is going to be like, can't miss TV, man.
And then the last game is the Raiders and Chiefs. Las Vegas. I see the Chiefs winning that one.
But one of my most excited games is week 2 against you, Jack, and the Raiders. I was like, I think it's going to be an epic Monday night. Pete Carroll, Jim Harbaugh, they're going to come out to each other and, either fist fight or.
It's funny you said that.
So just real quick to get through.
Yeah,
what
sorry,
we just
Richie.
kind of predicted here, so we can kind of get through your record or prediction as well, because I think we've Jack, you didn't go through yours yet either. We're gonna have to go through these pretty quick to kind of get.
You have your schedule
out.
now, Jack?
Yep.
So, Diza, just before we go to yours, let's quickly go through Jack's Raiders one, just because it's I think.
Okay, let me go to the Raiders stuff. All right.
So he's at New England.
I'm at New England. That's a W.
I see that as a win for the Raiders. Then
that's going to be a low-key good game too. Because,
yes, it is.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be
the Chargers and Raiders.
Chargers and Raiders in Vegas.
That's at your house. So call, win, loss, whatever.
No, I'm calling that a loss.
What? I thought you were high on them now.
Okay.
Well, I am high on it, but I just looked at the past. It's like, well, actually, no, I take that back, dude. It just seems like we win against you. I take it back because we do win against you in our home stadium, but we lose in your stadium, which we have more Raider fans than Chargers fans. So I'll take that as a W.
And then it's at the Commanders. I see that as a loss.
That's a loss.
And then
Bears.
And then it's Bears at home for you guys.
Ooh, that's going to be an interesting game based on the offensive alignment that they signed this year. But I'm still going to call that a win. Colts, I'm going to call it a win. Titans, I'm going to call it a win. Raiders at Chiefs, I'm going to call that a win because I said we're going to lose the last game against them. Jaguars a win. Broncos a loss. Oh, Cowboys.
Monday night game too.
That one's a tough one. I think they match up pretty well. You got to lose one somewhere, so I'm going to call that a loss. Browns, I'm going to call that a win. Raiders at Chargers, a loss. Broncos at Raiders. Shoot. I'm going to call that a loss. I mean, anytime you play on Mile High, it's like, living out there at that altitude really does affect you. And then we got Raiders at Chargers. I'm going to call that one a loss.
Wait, what?
And then Broncos at Raiders. I'm going to call that a win.
After the Denver game, you have Philly.
Oh, Philly. Well, after Philly, playing Philly, yeah, that's a definite loss.
So that's 6. Then you play. Then you're at Houston.
Yeah, I guess I'm not as high on your team, Richie. Like when you talked about the Texans, I think the Raiders match up well versus the Texans. I'm going to call that a W. And then the Giants is a win, and Chiefs is a loss.
So you have your team going. I have 7 losses, so that's 10-7.
And I feel there got to be one more mystery loss in there somewhere because they always lose one game that doesn't make any sense.
So I do think, and my general prediction for your Raiders was.
No, I'm 9-8.
That is like a 9-8 or an 8-9, depending on how games fall for you. I think that's a realistic.
Tough for me, right?
I had
to go through
kind of where I'm at.
I can't argue that because they always lose like one game, which doesn't make any sense. Like last year we lost to the Panthers. How in the hell do you lose to the Panthers?
Oh, was that towards the end of the season when they're?
No, it was in the beginning of the season.
Oh, okay. Panthers are going to be much improved, I think. Oh, man. I don't know about this.
And again, since it was like a quick rundown, it's like not thinking about it very much. Like just have to pick it because the schedule just came out when the show started.
Yeah.
Wow, that went everywhere.
Yeah, it did. Jack predicts a Raiders record of 9-8. So
yeah, that's what I see as overall. But I mean, based on what I just chose, it was 10-7. But
10-7.
Again, Cap knows this. Salute, Cap. There's always one team that we lose to, which we shouldn't lose to.
Yeah. So you thought you're going to win the Brazil game, DZ. So that puts you at 1-0.
Yeah. I got us squeaking by the Chiefs week 1. Week 2, in Vegas, Monday Night
Yep.
Football against the Raiders. Much tougher than it was previous year. I got that being a squeak win again. So
Okay.
I think they go 2-0. And then we got the Broncos coming in week 3. And I've got that being 3-0. And I know you guys are like, yeah, okay, I got that being 3-0. Going to New York, 4-0. Week 5 against the Commanders, loss. Go week 6 in Miami, another loss. So back-to-back losses.
Yeah.
Colts win. Now Vikings is interesting because they beat us a lot. Well, every time we seem to play, but this is JJ McCarthy. So this is Harbaugh's college boy.
Yeah.
This game's tough for me. It's a Thursday night game. I got that a win as well. Now here's a team where it's like you have no business losing to for one reason or another. And the Titans, and I think we win again as well against them. Now here you go. This is where we got the Steelers in LA, but this is this fan base, in my opinion, is like the Raiders, how they travel. And I think the Steelers, God, man, this is going to be a hell of a matchup. I think
Depends on who's quarterback, right?
Yeah, but I think they eke out a win against us at home. I think the Steelers win. So that's an L for us. And then at the Jaguars, Jags are much improved. Fuck, man. Oh, man, if we lose these guys again.
I see guys winning.
God, this is tough. I could see an L because this is in Florida, and Chargers do not play well in Florida. But it's in November. Okay, I'll say win. And we have a bye. And then we got the Raiders. That's a loss. I got us losing to the Raiders. I got us losing to the Eagles. Then we're at the Chiefs in Arrowhead late, week 15. This is what this team is built for. I got them sweeping the Chiefs. First time in God knows how long. 2025, we're sweeping the Chiefs. Week 15.
At Dallas.
At Dallas. Win.
Okay. Then you're
Texans loss.
Yeah.
I still don't believe. Yeah, I don't believe. And then it's with the Broncos, and I see that as a loss.
Yeah, you're at 10-7 then.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a 10-7 record for the Chargers,
which is less. So that would be impressive with this schedule. I could totally see it being a 9-8 as well.
Yeah, so I have the Broncos being a 10-7 team in a pretty realistic, like a cautiously optimistic kind of piece there. We could go as high as like a 12 or 13 win team if all the right games go our way. And we could fall down to like, a 9-win team sort of thing if we start having injuries and stuff, or if some of the new additions don't pan out. And we kind of predicted the worst record in the division would be somewhere in the 9-8 range with the Las Vegas Raiders. That was what Jack Fred predicted there. And then DZ, you and I basically had our teams matching each other, and then we ended up with the Chiefs going 11-6. So
I was surprised that we beat you guys in Denver. I don't see it happening back-to-back years, to be honest with you. So that Week 18 game is going to be pivotal for
you guys.
teams.
I just kind of feel like the Chargers will do what the Chargers do and be a lot of injuries at the end of the year, and then you're going up to Mile High. That's always a tough place to play.
We have had some luck, generally speaking, with the Denver Broncos, where we haven't had a lot of IR guys. It's been a lot of 2 or 3 game or 1 game kind of ding ups and then kind of coming back sort of thing. So we are in the top 3, if I'm not mistaken, for least injured teams in the last 2 seasons. So
yeah, that's impressive. I think the Chiefs as well, right?
Yeah, the Chiefs are in the top 5, I think, as well. So. Yeah.
Well, that's what I felt like. Tom Telesco came over and he brought over the injury bug from my team.
Yeah.
I'm glad he's gone.
Yeah. So all in all, it's like we kind of predicted. We think it's going to be a bit of a gauntlet division, and it looks like that's going to be the case based on what our predictions are. It'll be interesting to see what comes out, new news, new players, and all that sort of stuff. So with that, we are going to end the show there. Cap that off with the entire of the 4 divisions, where we've kind of also taken some liberties with the Chiefs as well. I will reach out to Alex and kind of give you can follow my response there on X to see what Alex thinks of our prediction for his schedule, and we can go from there. If there are any other questions, leave them in the chat. I'll do my best to answer them after the show, or we will do our best to answer them after the show as a collective group. Until next week, guys, where the West Side is the best side. Thanks for joining. Peace.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Simcoe's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast racking up the flame out. So high, I might never come down, so what, this is my lifestyle. Wait a minute.